Welcome to ACSI's annual conference. I'm Ali Moore. I'll be your moderator for much of today. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. For the official welcome to country, please welcome Wurundjeri Elder Tony Garvey.
Thank you very much, Ali, for that warm welcome, and thank you all for inviting me here today. I'd like to start off the event by saying Wominjeka, Wominjeka, which means welcome in the Wurundjeri Wurrung language. So welcome to all Indigenous and non-Indigenous people here today. I'd also just like to say I'm very proud and honoured to be here today, standing tall for my people once again, like I have done for 35 years, and I will continue to do so for the rights of their own country. My great-grandfather was the last Narangita. Narangita in the Wurundjeri Wurrung language means last head tribesman leading our mob out at Corandurk on the mission where I live today with my family. He took over from my great-great-uncle. My great-great-uncle was King Barak. King Barak was our fearless leader that took on the government for land rights in the 1800s, right up till 1903 when he passed. My great-grandfather, Robert Wandon, took over from 1903 and led our mob right up till 1924, when the mission was closed due to colonisation and being forced out into white society. The Wurundjeri people, they are also a part of the Kulin Nation, so Kulin means men. In the Kulin Nation, we had our 5 language groups. We had the Wadawurrung to the west, the Coorong, who were the westerly neighbours to the Wadawurrung, Tanarong to the northeast, Bunurong to the southwest, and the Wurrung of the Wurundjeri territory that we stand on here today. The Wurundjeri lies of inner cities of Melbourne extend from the mountains of the Great Dividing Range, south of the Burrarung to the Mordialloc Creek, west to the Werribee River, and east to Mount Baw. The Wurundjeri people, they have a social totem. It is Bunjil the eagle. Bunjil represents spiritual powers throughout many parts of Australia. Bunjil taught all the laws about life, behaviour and ceremonies to make sure that our culture would continue for all walks of life throughout Australia. So Bunjil was referred to as the creator of mankind. Bunjil created great people from the land. That is why we call the land our mother, or the mother of creation. Never can the land be taken away. The land will always belong to Aboriginal people, as we are part of the land and the land is part of us. Our story is similar to the European people. Theirs is by their chosen faith, ours is by the dream time. We both have creators and beliefs, and ours is Bunjil. It is a traditional custom of the Australian Aboriginal communities to be asked and to give permission for people to enter their lands. And today you've now joined with me to honour the spirits of my ancestors, past, present and emerging, who have nurtured these lands for over 60,000 years. And we, as the owners of the lands, offer a heartily welcome to the land, and hope that together as citizens of this beautiful country, we can build, develop and unite stronger nations for all peoples. I'll close off in the Wurrung language, which is Wimijika, Wandun, Wurundjeri, Balak, Yuman, Kumibik, which means you're most welcome to the land of the Wurundjeri people. Before I jump down and get that big loud of applause I'm expecting, can I just touch on the back? Look, I touch on the back of this every time I do welcomes, because I think it's very important to thank the people that got behind us in the recent election and supported the yes vote. You know, we're not going to go far in this country without people supporting us. We are only a very small majority of the population of Australia now, so we are only 3.4% of Australia now. We cannot do it without you guys. So if you guys to get behind us, support us, we do appreciate it 100%. And it's all about getting invited to come to these events and use the opportunities for these welcome the countries for educational reasons. And a bit of compensation wouldn't go astray too. I need a new I need a new pair of shoes. Mine will burn out. But no, just jokes. But but seriously, look, I can't thank this enough. I must keep rolling because I've got to go a couple of doors down now by 10 o'clock. So, all right. But thank you very much, and hopefully there's no paparazzi out the front. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. And the commentary around the voice, it's interesting to reflect that just a year ago at this conference in Sydney, that was a very big part of the conversation at the time. You are in for a very busy day today, a busy day of debate and discussion, and certainly a very interesting time for companies and investors. We've seen such a high number of high-profile cases of companies falling foul of customer and community expectations, and sometimes also ultimately shareholder expectations as well. Qantas stands out. The supermarket sector is under the spotlight, and the big telcos make people very angry as well. You only have to look at the latest rankings of most trusted brands to see a reflection of some of the challenges facing boardrooms and investors when expectations are high and delivery falters. Optus, along with Telstra, Qantas and Medibank, are languishing way down the bottom of the scale, sitting uncomfortably but firmly, it seems, in the group of 10 most distrusted brands. Woolworths is at the other end, although after 3.5 years as being number one, it is now number two. Still, it is an enviable position for a company I doubt anyone in this room actually envies right now, with every politician and regulator having it in their spotlight. So before we look at have a closer look really at some of the issues facing corporations, and they are consumer expectations and things like net zero and modern slavery and so much more, I do have a bit of housekeeping. Probably the most important thing right now to tell you is that the hotel Wi-Fi is down. Hopefully that will improve during the course of the day, but hopefully you can also just use your own personal Wi-Fi, which does work in this room. A big thank you to ACSI's conference partners who show their support for the work super funds are doing in ESG to make a difference for members. I'd like to acknowledge the major partner, Federated Hermes, and the following partners: First Sentier, Glass Lewis, IFM Investors, ISS Stocks, Morningstar, MSCI, PGIM, Pomerantz LLP, Robeco, S&P Global, and our media partner, FS Sustainability. Today's partners have got valuable information to share with delegates, and you can access all their thought leadership by using the QR code on the partners page of your agenda. All of today's speakers will be thanked by a donation to the Cure Brain Cancer Foundation. For the full program view, the agenda on your table is there. The speaker bios can be accessed by scanning the QR code on the table cards. And we're going to be using Slido for Q&A during the discussion sessions. To access Slido, just use the QR code on the table. It'll take you directly to the Ask a Question page. Pick the session and put your question in. Apparently, if you're an Android user, you get a better experience if you actually download the Slido app from the App Store and type in the code 664422. I don't really expect any of you to remember that. So if you've got any questions, just go to the ACSI people at the back of the room over there who will be able to help you with that. I have tested that this morning and it does work, an absolute treat. So please do send your questions through early and often. If you wait towards the end of the session, they may not all get asked. So as soon as the session begins and you've got a question, send it through. I will tell you for future reference, the Wi-Fi today is supported by Pomerantz, and you can join it with the password AC24, but just hold off on that immediately. You can also follow and you can join in the discussion today at X, formerly Twitter, at #AC24. Really important too is in the interest of sustainability. If you've grabbed a coffee this morning, you may have noticed that you have a silver tin coffee mug. They are recyclable or reusable is a better way to put it. If you leave them on the table, there is a really big risk they'll get thrown out. There are special recycle bins just outside the doors. So if you could take it with you and pop it in one of those bins, that would be very helpful. It is my pleasure now to introduce someone who's very well known to all of you in this room. Debbie Blakey is President of ACSI, CEO of HESTA. She's also a Director at ASFA and the ICGN. She's a Wajir Pay Equity Ambassador. Please welcome ACSI President Debbie Blakey.
Thank you, Ali, and good morning, everyone. And I'd like to start by adding my acknowledgement of the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging, and of course extend that to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today. Thank you for joining the ACSI annual conference. This has been a milestone event for a couple of decades now. Incredible to say that, but yes, a couple of decades. And year after year, I always find it so inspiring to see so many people come together who care deeply about responsible investment and ultimately about creating better retirement outcomes for Australians. ACSI has for more than 2 decades been a strong voice on the issues that matter for responsible investors. So I do want to pause for a moment today to reflect on where we started and on how much progress has been made. At an early ACSI conference in 2002, ACSI's wonderful co-founder, Phil Spathis, well known to many of us in this room, asked and then swiftly answered the question, why corporate governance? Now remember that ESG, as it became known, was in its earliest infancy back then. Delegates in 2002 saw presentation of survey results that revealed trustees generally allocated little time to corporate governance issues and that investment managers were given considerable discretion in voting. Just a handful of funds expected those managers to even report how they voted. Frontier had also surveyed fund managers, and the results showed that just 15% of those fund managers sought their clients' views before voting. Now let's fast forward a handful of years to 2008, when 92% of ASX 200 directors were men because, and I quote, there were so few good female candidates. Now, for me, this trip down memory lane is quite revealing. It shows, first of all, that change can feel agonisingly slow, especially in the face of resistance. But I think the fact that the memories I've just shared seem so surprising actually shows how far we've come. Phil Spathis and the rest of ACSI's early team knew they were playing a long game. Profit to member super funds think about long-term investments as a matter of course. And that is why 20 plus years ago, they decided to create a collective voice on issues that matter to responsible investors, issues that do have a material impact on long-term returns and ultimately on retirement outcomes. And of course now environmental, social and governance risks and opportunities are absolutely front of mind for many in the finance world, and trustees, very fortunately, pay considerable attention to them. So it's therefore hard to imagine that some fund managers virtually had carte blanche to vote as they wished. On the contrary, a summary of funds voting is now made public, showing how transparency around stewardship has rightly continued to evolve. So while change might seem to drag its feet, when we look back over what is not a very long time, if you think about it, maybe I'm showing my age, but it doesn't feel like a very long time as we look back, we can clearly see that while we were busy researching, advocating, and engaging, we did pass a tipping point. Women now fill around 38% of the seats in ASX 200 boardrooms, meaning that those companies, thanks to a more diverse chorus of voices around the boardroom table, are making better decisions that help underpin improved business performance and enhanced long-term value for shareholders. It means that 40-40-20 will become a reality in boardrooms, and I trust in executive ranks as well. Other equity measures, such as the positive duty to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace, are continuing to evolve, and what's more, have been accepted as necessary by the wider business community. Our work is patient, just as superannuation's capital is patient. But that patience is not infinite. Engaging with companies and encouraging change has helped achieve a great deal. But where companies behave poorly or are slow to progress on critically important issues, ACSI and its members will continue to call out the actions or the lack of action where we believe this has a material impact on investment performance. Our results are tangible and our impact is real. Super funds incorporate environmental, social, governance, risks and opportunities into our investment decision-making and our active ownership. Why? I think we all know the answer. Because this leads to material improvements in the long-term viability of businesses and enhanced long-term returns for members. Take climate change, for example, which is a key financial risk for our investment portfolios. 2023 was the hottest year on record, and our patience is running out. We must all redouble our efforts to help cap global temperatures. And it might seem as slow as turning around the proverbial supertanker, but Australian-listed companies are transitioning to support a low-carbon economy, some with more enthusiasm perhaps than others. But ACSI has engaged with listed companies for years about the importance of reporting their climate risk. And by last year, 70% of ASX 200 companies did so. And now, after strong advocacy from ACSI and its members and others, the federal government is preparing to legislate mandatory climate reporting. This reform will support investors to better compare like with like when making our investment decisions. And this is a big moment for investors because we will be able to use that data to better identify climate risks and opportunities and more efficiently and more effectively allocate capital to the challenge of transitioning to a low-carbon future. And this will drive real outcomes for members, both in terms of the returns in their super account balances, but also in the world they live in, work in, and retire into. Now, of course, new environmental, social, environmental or governance issues will continue to emerge. Artificial intelligence is one. It's gone from being sci-fi standard to real-world opportunity and risk in a few short years. And alongside the new, familiar focus areas remain. Board accountability, corporate culture, safety, these are among those issues which made 2023 AGM season a busy one for investors, with a record 41 strikes against remuneration packages. So our work continues. It shows little sign of slowing down, but as people who spend our careers looking up and looking out and considering the long-term future, we do also need to look back occasionally, because it's only then that I think we see the change, which might have seemed slow in coming, but has in fact appeared right behind us. I think it's a good reminder of the power of persistent attitudes and behaviours, the power of patient persistence that is so vital to our work as active owners, and one we should bear in mind as we embark on today's fascinating program. As one of the defining leaders of our modern times, Nelson Mandela said so pointedly, "What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. Thank you.